So here are some retirement mistakes that you really want to try to avoid. And number one, and these aren't in any particular order, is moving on a whim. So a lot of us, sure, man, Florida sounds great, California sounds great, but you need to do your research. What's the cost of living? What are taxes like in those states? And I did another video on, which states are the easiest or the most retirement friendly as far as taxes go. You need to take a look at all that. And probably the biggest one is culture. And what do I mean by culture? Well, we lived in Colorado for quite a while, and we've lived in Texas for almost a quarter century now. And although I grew up in California, it wasn't that hard for me to adapt to that, but there was, some adapting that had to go along. What your core values are may not be the same as someone in the state that you're moving to. And I'm not talking one person. Here in the Panhandle, we're a very work ethic community. And that follows over into a lot of conversations that you have with people and a lot of friendships and how they act in their lives. If you're moving from California, say you're from Southern California and you're moving to the Panhandle of Texas, I can tell you right now, people are not going to receive you very well at first. Now, can you work your way into it? Sure you can. I mean, we came from Colorado down to Texas and we got a lot of the, those guys are from Colorado, but it all worked out for us and you can make it work. But anyway, culture is a big thing. So make sure you know what you're moving into. I would suggest taking some vacations before you actually make the move or before you commit any dollars to that move. Take some vacations to that area and do it during different seasons because there's more to life than just playing golf and walking on the beach. You really need to take a look at it all 4 seasons, if there are 4 seasons in that place. All right, and kind of along those lines are these offers that are too good to be true. Some of those might be some kind of retirement resort or something like that. So you need to be careful. Most of them are financial scams that you get into that they say there's zero risk and it's just going to shoot through the roof if you get into that today. So probably my number one rule for making decisions is if it's a pressure situation, if they say you got to sign up today or this is a limited time offer, that throws my antennas up pretty quickly that it might not be a legit thing. According to the FTC, 2.4 million people filed fraud reports for an estimated $8.8 billion in fraud. So it's pretty common out there. And kind of my rule is when it comes to my retirement, there's really no shortcuts. You just need to start early, need to do your planning. And again, if you're going to be moving or something like that, make sure you take some vacations and be confident in your retirement and your retirement plan. All right, another mistake can be planning to work indefinitely. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm just going to work until I'm, 67, 70, and building your plan around that. And that can be a problem because 55% of Americans are actually planning on still working even after they retire. And that's not a bad plan, to be real honest with you. But again, it's not always up to you when you're going to retire. There's something that could happen. It could be a health concern for you or your partner. And you have to retire to take care of that individual or to take care of yourself, and you're not able to work. Maybe you don't have the skills to work from home. That could be an issue. If you're someone who, like say you're a carpenter or plumber or something like that, it could come to a time when you're not able to work out in the field like that. And that's a reality, even part-time. The reality is that about 19% of retirees are actually in the workforce after age 65. So there are a few and there's exceptions. And I'm sure that doesn't take into account the people that are working under the table and things like that. It's just W-2 employees is really about the only way they can track that. So again, go ahead and have your retirement plan modeled so that you can retire as early as possible, and then if you do need to extend it out, or if you want to extend it out and work longer, you're in good shape with your retirement plan. All right, and the fourth big mistake that you can really fall into pretty easily is putting off retirement savings, just kicking the can down the road. And that hurts a lot of people. And for some of you, it may not be up to you whether you started saving or not. Again, like you've heard me talk about in other videos, I had a pretty nice little nest egg. I was right at about $100,000 when I was 37, 38 years old. And guess what? I worked for a company called Enron. And guess what? Back then, you couldn't take the, all the matching funds and the retirement bonuses and everything they gave you. It had to stay in Enron stock. You couldn't sell it off. So I lost almost all of that first retirement and had to start over again when I was 38. So I had to get real aggressive with it. And I've got some numbers here for you that are pretty interesting. So if you start at 25 and you save about $281 a month, assuming a 7% return of the market, by the time you're 65, you'll have about $1 million. So, that's not too bad to cope with, $381 a month, but you're only 25 years old. If you wait till you're 35 years old, the number goes to $820 a month. If you wait till you're 45 years old, that number goes to $1,920 a month. Now we're getting into some pretty serious cash to try to stash away. And also you got to think, if you wait too late, you can only put so much into a qualified tax-deferred 401k or something like that. So, if you're really having to play catch-up, you're probably going to need to go into a brokerage account with some of your money, which is not a bad idea, but coming up with $1,920 a month could be really hard. Now, if you wait till you're 55, and hold on for this one, it's over $5,000 a month you need to save at 7%, payback in the market to hit that $1 million by the time you're 65. So that for me wouldn't have been an option. Luckily, I was good to go. I could start again in my mid-30s, and I ended up building up my retirement and was able to retire by the time I was 61, but I had to be pretty aggressive about it. And number 5 is borrowing from your 401k. It's your money, right? If I want to borrow it, I'm going to borrow it. I'll pay myself back with interest. That all sounds good. In an emergency, that might be the thing you have to do. But kind of my rule, and it was actually my sister-in-law, thank you, Tricia, who told me many, many years ago, treat your retirement as your retirement. Don't borrow against it, to buy a house. Don't borrow against it to put your kids through school. There are other loans available for that type of money, but they won't give you a loan on your retirement. They won't do it. But you can get a loan on a car, you can get a student loan for education, but you can't get a loan for retirement. So treat your retirement as retirement and don't borrow against it unless you absolutely have to or it makes financial sense. And 2 of the big reasons not to do that, number 1 is just the opportunity for growth. If you take those dollars out, well, you're paying yourself back with interest, but if the market's going up, if you're gaining 7, to let's call it 15% in the market, which would be a good year, you could lose out on a lot of potential money in your account. So that's number 1. Number 2, if you end up quitting your job or if you end up leaving your job, guess what? You normally got about 60 to 90 days to pay that back. And if you don't pay it back, then here we go again with the penalties. And, it's all of a sudden it's taxed and, you got penalties coming out. It's just like you took it out early. And that can really hurt you. So be careful anytime you're thinking about borrowing from your 401k. And I don't know about all accounts. I did borrow one time. I had an emergency and I borrowed $3,000. You can't put it back in there. They just take it out of your check every month, and you lose out on those dollars that you may gain with growth in your investments. All right, and number 6, we touched on just a little bit earlier, and that's saving but not investing. And you know, although it's really good to have an emergency fund in the bank that can sustain you for, 6 to 9 months, that's a really solid plan, but you don't want to put your whole nest egg in the bank because there's no growth there. And it can't sustain you in your retirement if there's no growth. And I say can't, it all depends on you. And again, I'm not a financial expert. None of this is financial advice, but you need to take a look at it. If you just put it in the bank, it's not going to keep up with inflation, and it's actually going to lose money over time. Or how should I put that? Your money is going to lose its buying power over time if you just keep it in the bank and you don't invest it and get that growth. All right, so there you go. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you'd go ahead and boop that like button so it can get out to other people. And I hope you're having a great day, and watch this video next.